focusing on looking at the overseas market, the opportunity there, and sustainability, and strengthening textile clusters perhaps, and also branding. I think these perhaps are the focus areas that are all very relevant, important, and some of them very topical as well. To this gathering, perhaps I don't need to, talk about the importance of the textile sector in the economy, the role that the sector plays in terms of generating economic opportunity, in terms of your contribution to the GDP, in terms of the fact that close to 60 million people are employed, directly or otherwise in this sector, and the fact that textiles is today about 10 to 11% of our exports. So textile is an engine of growth and will continue to be in the years to come. Is something that I think we can all agree upon. The opportunity which has been mentioned for the sector today is perhaps what we need to dwell a little bit more on. In terms of, I feel that the sector today, or the industry, is poised at a very critical sort of a juncture, and it is possible for the industry to take that next big leap. The circumstances, the domestic and international situation seems to favor it. The policy framework or the policy regime is also favorable. I think there is energy in this sector, and I can feel that energy in this room today. Looking at the opportunities which exist for us as we go ahead. It has been already said that when we look at India as in terms of the domestic sector, the domestic economy, we have a vision which the Prime Minister has kind of unveiled and spoken about, that by the time India turns 100 years, 2047, we are looking at perhaps the country becoming a developed economy. The per capita income, which is today perhaps in the vicinity of $2,000, maybe reaching tenfold, maybe around 20,000. So we are looking at huge disposable incomes. We have an aspirational class which will be a high consuming sort of a huge segment, and therefore the domestic demand certainly looks that it will be robust. What is it that we hope and aspire that we can look for, and perhaps even help in setting some kind of a roadmap in the years to come? We've spoken about an overarching sort of an ambition for the textile sector, maybe in the next 7 to 8 years, of increasing our exports to about 100 billion. How do we go about it? What is it that we need to, it's a dynamic world. While opportunities are there for us, our competitors are not sitting idle. So they will also be, wanting to utilize this opportunity. I think it's time for the industry to sort of up its game. They will have to be focused more and more on value-added products. I think the apparel sector last year in terms of exports was about 70 to 80 billion. I think we are looking at a much larger footprint from the apparel, from the made-up sector. I think in the last couple of decades, both these sectors have seen a CAGR of about 10%. So it bodes well, and I think the industry needs to capitalize and build more and more on this. I mentioned that natural fiber is our strength. We are the largest producer in one of the largest producers in cotton, the largest, I think, also in silk, jute, etc. We are looking at increasing productivity, when it comes to cotton. We are also looking at, was mentioned by Mr. Dyer on the traceability. These are aspects that the government is working on and working closely with the industry. The big push or the growth may perhaps come from the man-made fiber and from technical textiles. You are aware that the government is also implementing a national technical textiles mission, which focuses on on a lot of R&D work, both in terms of basic or fundamental research, in terms of carbon fiber or aramids, etc., and also applied research in terms of geotech or agrotech applications of protech, etc. These probably are the areas that will become more and more important in terms of the potential for growth, in terms of for us to be able to capitalize on these opportunities. The industry would also perhaps need to consider very closely, focus rather on product diversification, collaborate where possible, but perhaps the drive will have to come from the industry in this regard. Skilling is going to be another area which is going to be exceedingly important. In terms of the plan that the government has, we are looking at something like 10 lakh skilled workforce by 2030. So and the government is implementing the skilling scheme by the name of Samarth in partnership with industry. And we are hoping that we'll be able to create, that kind of skilled workforce for the industry, which would be required as we go ahead. I made a mention of the PLI scheme, which we are already implementing. PLI scheme is looking at, generating an investment of close to 20,000 crore in a short period of time. That's a big push in the man-made fiber and the technical textile sector. We are also working and consulting with industry on possible scheme for other segments of the industry, and we are hopeful that we can come finalize that soon. The Mitra parks would, these are 1,000-acre kind of parks which would have the entire value chain, captured there, logistic support, and almost 1 lakh kind of employment each park is going to generate. So here we are really talking of big scale. I think on R&D, we would certainly like the industry to also, work with some of the research institutions, both on technical textiles and on product diversification, etc. I am also, just want to make a mention that India perhaps has another unique advantage or uniqueness, or maybe USP, for the fact that our textile industry represents or comprises the smallest, the individual handloom worker who's operating from his home, to the most modern and mills and manufacturing units, which enables us to be able to cater to a wide sort of range of demand when it comes to textile products. I think that's our strength, and I'm strongly sort of tempted also when I see this audience to make this last pitch of saying that the industry, the textile industry, also needs to probably speak in one voice and support each of these segments, which together form the textile sector in India. India already has a place in the global textile ecosystem, if I may say, though we are at about 5% at present. But we have a sort of a natural advantage when we talk of natural fibers, when we talk of cotton or silk or jute, etc. And we are looking at increasing our competitiveness and our presence in technical textiles, in man-made fiber, apparel, fabric, etc. Our focus at present perhaps has been, in key markets, almost 50% of our exports today are going towards US and EU and some of the developed countries. Perhaps the industry may also like to consider looking at some of the other emerging economies, maybe the Latin American or the African continent, where also the disposable incomes would be increasing in the years to come. Government as a facilitator, and as an enabler of creating an ecosystem which helps the sector utilize the opportunities which are coming up and is able to catalyze it effectively. The government is committed to playing that role. We have, through some of the initiatives in recent years, whether we talk of PLI, which focuses on the emerging segments of the textile sector, which is the MMS and technical textiles, have perhaps, we are hoping that we can create some global big players in a short period of time in these segments. The Mitra parks are also, looking at creating a sort of an integrated value chain within these parks, creating a kind of scale of operation, and even reducing logistics costs, and across the country, which would help India in becoming competitive in textiles and having an integrated, as I said, value chain. So these initiatives are taking place. They are so that's why I'm saying this is perhaps a unique opportunity when, in terms of demand, both internationally and domestically, we are at a good place. In terms of the infrastructure and the policy regime falling in place, I think there is a realization that there is optimism. The industry and the government look forward to working together. I think the government is also committed to creating an ecosystem